where I get that feeling and now I don't get scared by it. It almost triggers me to move forward. It's like, okay, this is fear for me. The fear of maybe failure, the fear of looking dumb or embarrassment. But now I know on the other side of fear for me is everything I want.
You are listening to the Go Earn Your Salt podcast brought to you by Salt Electrolytes. On this podcast, your host Riley Rogers, that's me, explores the stories of people who get after it, get things done, and earn their salt. You will hear from high achievers who discuss what makes them tick, how they got to where they are today, and where they are headed tomorrow. Perhaps this podcast will help you go earn your salt. Welcome, my friend Albert Kang here. Albert's special to this show because back when Salty Electrolytes was just first becoming an idea, we were looking for a clever tagline. And Albert he's one of my jiu-jitsu buddies. You've seen a few of those guys on here. But we're on the mat one day and, Albert already knew that we were going to call our electrolyte brand Salty Electrolytes. And he just used the phrase, "Hey man, I earned my salt today." And I right there just said, you know what? I own that now. I'm gonna use that. And that to me, Albert, man, that really stood out as it was just a cool moment. It was one of those moments.
Yep.
And so, now come further around that circle, the Go Earn Your Salt podcast. You named it, my man.
We'll be here, Riley. Grateful to see all your success with Salt Electrolytes. And I remember that moment. I was actually pretty tired. It was near the end of one of our training sessions, and we were kind of talking about it. I'm always thinking about earning it. You got to earn your keep. You got to earn your pay. And what happened was all this rolling and grappling got me sweaty. I get pretty sweaty, and I tasted some kind of saltiness in my mouth. And it's like, salt, gotta earn it. Earn your salt. And that's how it just kind of came out really organically in the moment.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool thing, man. So I've told a lot of people about that, and I've even spoken about it on other people's podcasts. And it's special to me to have you on here and get to say, hey, this is the guy. This is the one I was talking about. So
Well, I appreciate it. Our relationship goes back, I think, almost 4 years, 3 or 4 years
some
ago.
4 or 5. I was thinking 4 or 5, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So when I first started training jujitsu, which is kind of an interesting story, I didn't have an interest in jujitsu at all. I actually had an employee who was living in Texas working remotely, and we were going through a one-on-one. I said, "Hey, what are some things that you're kind of scared of and you're not trying, but you want to do?" And you know what
Oh,
he
dude.
said? He said jujitsu and he said boxing. I said, when you come back to Idaho, I know a place. I heard this really great place to train called Team Rhino. My kid's been going there for about a month or two. I'm still kind of scared to try it, but you know what? I'll try a free trial with you and we can go together. So I was thinking about it as like a mentoring opportunity for an employee. And he didn't stick around very long, moved to different pursuits. It happens in jujitsu, right?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
so I actually got a pretty bad injury early on. It was probably about 2 months in, so just very new white belt, and I broke 3 ribs. They just kind of just kind of broke off like that. It was user error. And back then, Riley, you weren't an instructor, but you always cared. And you spent extra time with all the students, whether we were white belts, blue belts, whether we showed any ability in jujitsu or athletic ability or not. You always came by and you cared. And so um, it was a pretty tough time. So I was just getting into it, making some friends, and then you vanish, right? So I had to be off the mats for several months. And then when I came back, a part of me thought, man, no one's even going to remember me. It was just a flash in the pan. I was there for 2 months. All these other guys have been there for 5, 6, 10 years. And I showed up and you were there. You said, "Hey, Albert, the new guy." And that really resonated with me. Months later, you didn't know me very well, but just that, I think, commitment to um, engaging with people and empathy really shone through with you. And that told me what kind of character you had, just remembering my name. And so now, fast forward a few years later, here we are.
It's funny, man, because you don't realize that sometimes, right? I didn't at the time think of that at all. I was excited to see you back because listen, for people who don't know, rib injuries in jiu-jitsu are probably a 95 to 98% of people who start jiu-jitsu get rib injuries. It's probably the most common thing, and it usually happens early because your body is just not used to that pressure, right?
Right.
And I'll tell you a funny story about your rib injury in general. When I first heard that you were taking time off for a rib injury, my initial reaction was like, "Dang man, we've all been hurt. This guy needs to just get his butt in here." But then, like the next day, I saw your X-rays on the Facebook. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. He didn't just tear the muscle. He actually broke his ribs." So, all right, I kind of at that point was thinking Albert's tougher than he looks. So,
Oh no, not as tough as 99% of the world, but I think the part of me was it's something that I started and I wasn't going to quit. And Keith Owen, right, I'm sure he's been mentioned on your podcast, right? Owner, founder of Team Rhino. I didn't know him very long. I just knew him for just a month and a half, 2 months. Didn't really form much of a relationship with him. And one of those days, I was hurting pretty bad, but I was still coming to watch my kid Alexander. So Alexander was training jujitsu twice a week. I'm not training. I'm kind of disconnected, but I'm coming. I'm sitting out with the parents. And for some reason that day, I just felt kind of down. Now, I was a pretty active person, ran a lot, hiked, did all these things, have four kids, stayed very physically active. And with a rib injury, I just couldn't do anything. And I kind of felt sorry for myself. And so Keith came by like he always did, said, "Hey, Albert, how are you doing? Ribs getting better? You can get back on the mats." And I don't know, I was just kind of down. I was like, you know what? Not feeling too good. I'm not working out. I'm like not eating well. Just getting fat and old. I remember I said, I was like, just getting fat and old. And he looked at me and said, "Never again." It's like, all right. And that resonates with me. Even today, having known him so little, just those words in my mind, I feel that whenever I get a little down about things, I hear that. It's never again.
so what was he saying? Was he saying never say those words again?
I really don't know. So I've interpreted as never again. This is the last time you're going to feel sorry for yourself. This is the last time you're going to have this pity party for yourself. Keep moving, advance, go forward. And that's the interesting part of it. I'll never know. Obviously, Keith's no longer with us, so I'll never know what those words exactly meant, but it's resonated.
You
Years
know,
later, it's resonated with me.
knowing him, that sounds like what he probably meant. You know, he heard that pity party, and I tell you, we have all been there, man. If you've ever been injured, if you're a physical, active, athletic person, and you've ever been injured, well, crap, man, that depression's real. And I think Keith was a good enough coach where he probably recognized that in you.
It was good stuff, good memories of him. Just really good people too. I think what I found to be the best thing about jujitsu was really finding a tribe again. I think there's a challenge with people, especially when we grow up, we become adults. We're not part of those sports teams anymore, whatever it may be. We don't have the jersey. It's sometimes hard to find your tribe. It's hard to find those people that help motivate you, challenge you, love you, trust you. And I think we walk alone a lot. And I found that again with jujitsu. And it's been a minute. I worked for the Forest Service for 5 years, and you all wear the shirt that says fire on it. Everyone knows what tribe you're on. They do.
Yeah, for real. I want to get into the fire service with you because you've one of the other reasons I asked Albert on this podcast was partly because of your background, man. You've had some really cool career choices, but then some vastly different career choice. It wasn't like you sort of bled from one to a similar one. It was like full on 180 changes, and you've done it a couple times just since I've known you, and yet you continue to perform at a high level. And so I want to go through that with you. For those of you who we haven't talked about this yet, but those of you who are watching, Albert, tell us about your growing up first, and then I want to go right into fire service, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an East Coast kid. I know we're having this conversation in the Great West, Idaho, great state of Idaho, but I grew up just south of Baltimore in Maryland. It couldn't be any more different than Idaho. My parents are immigrants from Korea, couldn't speak the language well, but they overcame it by working harder than anybody. They owned a little restaurant called Steak and Fries in Westview Mall in East Baltimore, Route 40. Tough place to own a business. The food business is it's notoriously rough. So they're working 16-hour days, 7 days a week. And myself and my sister, who's 4 years older, we're trying to live out the American dream for them, right? So for them, they come to America, it's hard to find a job. They're just trying to figure things out. They're working at this restaurant and they just really stress education and hard work. They're like, we can't give you more guidance than that because we don't know how it works here. But we do know if you work hard and you strive to be the best in whatever you're doing, for them, as academics, you may have a shot,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah, we're not guaranteed that, right?
fortunately, right? Fortunately for my sister, she followed their advice. Myself, on the other hand, I went a different way. I was kind of a wayward kid. I think for me, my parents were around, but they were working so much. My sister's 4.5 years older. So I was getting to high school when she was leaving high school. I was trying to find my way with the wrong people, with the wrong things, um, not really having role models on a day to day because my parents were just working so hard. And so a lot of people don't know this, but I'm a high school dropout. So I dropped out of high school my senior year, got into a lot of trouble, all self-caused, and ended up getting my GED, doing the community college route, working, school, just really an underachiever. And so I got to age 22, 23, nothing exceptional about me, nothing special, quite the opposite. I felt like everything I touched failed. Everything I tried failed. I realize now, looking back, I always quit too soon, right? I quit a month before something could have got me to the next level. I quit
Oh,
when my ego got hurt at a job and never was able to advance, and I blamed other people. I quit too soon at school because I didn't see the value in it in the moment. And it was just a really tough time for me. Here I am, I'm 23, going on 24, graduated college, uh, got accepted to law school. And here's the thing, I wasn't an exceptional student. I just applied to a lot of law schools and ended up getting into one. And I was flipping through the channels on TV back when you could do that. And there's this firefighter in California. There's in the brush, flames. There's an air tanker flying by, and he's hosing down. And I just looked at that. Here, I'm a kid from Baltimore. I was like, wow, that seems like so far off and far fetched. And I felt like I just needed a change. Like I just desperately needed something different to maybe kickstart my life. I felt like I was just so far behind, 23, 24. Other people are graduating college and starting their careers or going to grad school. And so I was like, okay, where do I start? So I went to the library because that's where you get internet access. I looked up uh, Forest Service fire jobs. You go on USA Jobs, and I went through this whole system. And there's a section where you click on seven different preferred locations. So I started clicking on Alaska, California. I just kind of clicked, clicked, and clicked. So I went through six of them, and I hit a random location for number seven. I didn't even remember at the time. I just clicked just to fill out the box. A month went by, didn't hear anything. 2 months went by, didn't hear anything. I'm like, oh shoot, I'm gonna have to go to law school and be a very average or below average attorney. I was kind of
Oh, gee.
succumbing to my fate. And then I got a call. So here's the thing with the Forest Service. Most firefighters are seasonal, temporary employees, right? They get hired for 3 month or 4 month stretches. It's vastly different standards for hiring city or structure firefighters. There's no written test. There's none of that initially. I got a call. Uh, his name's Levi Golf. Later on, we'd call him Ivel because he's so evil. We just switched his name in
Oh,
reverse. And he called me and said, hey, Albert Kang, we have a slot for you. The crew started about 2 weeks ago. Can you come out here on Monday? And it was a Friday. And I said, yes. And he said, all right, we'll pick you up at the Boise airport. And I'm like, wait, Boise airport? Where are you calling from? And he said, Loman Ranger District, Idaho.
oh,
That was number seven. That's what I clicked. I had no no clue.
Loman,
I
Idaho,
never even
man. So for people who don't know about Loman, Loman is it's central Idaho, and it's like in the sticks, man. There's not anything for 40 miles in any direction around Loman.
nothing, nothing. And I said, Boise Airport, how about Tuesday? I can make it there by Tuesday. So I had a backpack. I had one shirt, a couple socks. I didn't have the right kind of boots. I didn't have anything. And I took a one-way flight from Baltimore BWI Airport to Boise. And I got there. I'm looking around. Uh, this guy literally became a buddy of mine. We called him Worm. There's a lot of nicknames in fire. So his name was Worm, WORM. And it's like, hey, are you Albert? I'm like, yeah. He's like, let's go. Hour and a
That's
half
awesome.
later, we're just driving and driving, like you said, right? We're going to middle of nowhere. And here I show up, kind of city kid, and it felt like I was old too, because I'm 24 now. Four other
So,
rookies, 18 years old, 19 years old, 18 years old. There's this one guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he was about my age. But I'm the only one there. I don't have a vehicle, I don't have anything. And I was getting nervous, right? I was like, man, what did I get myself into here? And right off the bat, within 2 hours, I got all my gear, got my Nomex, those yellow shirts, green pants, hard hat, line gear, feeling kind of weighted down. It's 90 degrees out. Got a tool in my hand, got a Pulaski, and they're like, we're going to go for a conditioning hike. You ready, Baltimore? Actually, my boss at the time called me Philadelphia. They're like, hey, Philadelphia, you ready for a conditioning hike? Like, let's go. And I fell out of that hike. It was probably 10 minutes in. There was a big gap, and I fell way behind myself and this other rookie. And I got back to the barracks, and I felt a lot of shame. And I was starting to think, this is the quitter in me. All those times I quit before then, I was like, man, if I had a car, I'm just going to drive off tonight. And so I'm glad I didn't have a car. Now, what's interesting is the other person took off.
oh,
The other person who
this other
fell out of
guy.
the hike, he lived in Boise. He just took off that night. He just drove off. It's like, this isn't for me. I can say now I probably would have done the same thing, but I
Had
didn't
you
because
had
I
the
didn't have a
opportunity.
choice. I didn't have the opportunity. And that set the course for me in the last 22, 23 years I've lived here in Idaho was it break the cycle of me being a quitter. It break the cycle of me when things get a little hard, when things get a little uncomfortable, that I say, hell with it. Someone else's fault.
So you've mentioned this a couple times, having this this stigma of quitting. You feel like, I'm going to do it again. Here we go again, you know. And now you've put yourself in this situation where there's not a way out, man. You're just there. You know, your Uber's not a thing yet, right? So you can't even call an Uber to get out
Uber's
of it.
not a thing.
You're just stuck. So how have you taken that lesson of uh, not 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 having a convenient way out and put that into practice later in life?
Well, now I've done it so many times. I get that. I still get the feeling, that funny feeling you get in your stomach, anxiety, fear, low self-esteem, whatever it may be. Those times I'll sit in the car in the parking lot outside jiu-jitsu thinking, do I really want to do this? And they're all my friends. Should I just turn? Should I just leave? I think I've
It's
done it so
amazing.
much now. It is, yeah, I've done it so much now where I get that feeling and now I don't get scared by it. It almost triggers me to move forward. It's like, okay, this is fear for me. The fear of maybe failure, the fear of looking dumb or embarrassment. But now I know on the other side of fear for me is everything I want.
Hey, business owners, I want to talk to you for a second. Do you have a retail space or a pro shop inside your business? If so, I want you to know something. Your customers are buying electrolyte supplements. The problem is they're not buying them from you. Salty Electrolytes can help with that with their wholesale program. They can bring those sales to you in-house so your customers get the electrolytes they deserve from the company they love most. All you have to do is head over to goearnyoursalt.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click on the link that says apply for wholesale. Or it's possible that there's a link in the description of this podcast. And now, my friends, go earn your salt.
And now I choose that path. Like if I'm scared by it, if it makes me feel uncomfortable, I'm going to lean into it. Not because I feel more comfortable about it. I've done it a lot, but because I've seen the results of it. The results are I see the positive that happens from it. Um, I always felt like I'm always behind. It started when I dropped out of high school, right? I dropped out of high school, I lost a year, other people are living their lives, and I always felt like I'm 1 year behind. I'm 2 years behind. And I've started to realize it's never too late to become the person you're meant to be. It's never too late. Whether you're 24, 34, 46, like I am now, and like you mentioned, hey man, you've changed a couple of things. Yeah, when I was a firefighter, I thought that's what I was going to do for 20 years. I thought that's what I was going to do for 30 years. I met my wife in fire. Her brother's a smoke jumper. Her dad spent 40 years in the Forest Service. My wife was a firefighter when I first met her. Tough, smart, and I had a lot of experiences there where worked on a hand crew where you hike into fires on foot, you're digging 16 hours a day, you're hot, you're uncomfortable. We work on these little fires in the middle of nowhere. We go to these big project fires where there's 2,000 firefighters in California. I ended up working on a fire engine. I ended up my last year working on Boise Helitack as a Helitack repeller. And I just thought I'd just keep going. I'm scared of heights, Riley. My wife knows that.
And you were
I
repelling
can't
out of
even go up on
helicopters.
I can't even go on a roof. If there's a light out on a ceiling light, my wife knows she's just going to grab the ladder and she's going to take care of it. I start trembling, and there's something that really appealed to me to either be a smoke jumper or be a repeller on a helitack crew, and that's what led me through my journey in fire to get on a helitack crew. So rappelling out a helicopter 250 feet in the air, you're back on the skids of that helicopter. This is my break. And
Yeah.
I try to get down to the ground as fast as possible. So others are like, wow, Albert has no fear. Look at him just go. And it's the fear that got me down. And it's the fear that got me up.
That's so interesting, man, because you may not know this, but you I met you as an adult, right? And you had calmed down a lot apparently because the scuttlebutt is from the guys who worked with you that you were a wild man.
I was a wild, wild man. So speaking of nicknames, I was Captain Chaos because wherever I went, there was chaos. And I was always in the middle of it.
So tell me more about that, man. Captain Chaos is a fantastic name. Had I known that, that would have been your jiu-jitsu fight name for sure.
I had a
New guy
cape.
was pretty good,
So
I gotta say, but
new guy was pretty good. And there's a lot to being a new guy from a mentality standpoint. But I had a cape, Captain K cape. It ended up catching fire one night through some shenanigans with fire Jenga.
Fire
But
Jenga.
it was all fun. It was a lot of fun. Here we are, firefighters at night. We're doing those things that young people do with little care in the world. And as I progressed in my career, uh, my second year, I was down in Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina and Rita. Saw a lot of devastation there. Um, you know, Fires to California, Santa Barbara, San Diego. We call it wildland urban interface. So it's not just those fires in the middle of the mountains and nowhere. It's fire that's touching people's lives, right? It's really touching their lives. And back in those days, we didn't have cell phones like this, right? So if we had
Right.
those disposable cameras that we just throw in our packs. I remember going out to the Witch Fire. I think that was '07. And at that time, it was the largest evacuation in U.S. history of people at San Diego County. We're coming in on engines, and everyone else was leaving. And I remember someone pulled out the disposable camera to take pictures. A young guy, it's like maybe a first or second year. And I looked back at him and said, "Hey, put that down. You don't want to have other people's misery become your memories
Hmm.
because that was already starting to happen to me."
So when you say that was already starting to happen to you, are you talking about because there's a you see it a lot of time in soldiers, police officers, and firefighters where that there's almost a callousness that starts to happen. Is that what you're referring to?
Mhm. Yeah, so people now know me as being just smiling and happy and positive all the time. And I was like that too in those early days. Um, Mississippi changed me a little bit after Katrina. You know, in the Forest Service and wildland fire, you're not subject to type of human trauma that a city firefighter sees or a police officer sees, or the expectation of death and casualties that a soldier sees. It's just not, it doesn't come part of the equation of being a forest firefighter. Um, but it happens.
Yeah,
It happens.
yeah, but you talked about how you go from Loma, Idaho, fighting fires up there, to Santa Barbara. Very different.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
All over the place. And, it's helicopters are unforgiving. Helicopters are just as unforgiving as fires can be, which is kind of ironic because I ended up working on a helicopter crew. We lost three. Crash Helitech, their ship went down at the end of the year. I think that was '06. They went down. And so one of the firefighters on that helicopter, she actually had the same crew I had to that point. She worked on crew five. I worked on crew five. We all knew the same people. We hung out. We were friendly. And earlier that summer, she and some other firefighters actually survived a shelter deployment in Montana. Um, Fire
Explain
got
what that
them.
is,
They deployed.
because I think I know what you're talking about. A shelter deployment
Yeah,
means.
so in wildland fire, we're not carrying oxygen masks or anything else like that. We carry this little fire shelter, which it looks like the silver blanket in our line gear, and it's meant in the case that if a situation arises where you either make the bad decision or nature makes a decision for you, and you have no escape route. You have nowhere to go, and fire's coming on you. You deploy your fire shelter and you put it over you and you hunker down. What kills you isn't necessarily the direct fire, it's the superheated air that one inhale in turns your lungs into ashes, right? And so they had a deployment, it's a Little Venus deployment uh, incident. And the fire didn't touch them directly, and they survived it. It was a miracle. We had a big party about that
Mm.
when they got back. And one of them, lost her life at the end of the year.
In the helicopter. Huh?
Yeah, that was outside of Cascade. And here's the thing, like we're just like, okay, her brother actually worked on the crew with me. So it's kind of a big family.
Mm.
And we had this big memorial in Brundage. And I'd say there's actually, there are tears, but you can kind of tell there's some people are getting a little bit hardened to things. So the year before I started, there was a Kramer fire incident. Two firefighters, one from Salmon, Idaho, where my wife is from. Uh, they were in Indianola heliattack and they were killed. My father-in-law was one of their T-ball coaches growing up as a kid. So this is just a few years after that incident. This happens, and now we just keep marching on, right? Just keep marching on. And 2008 ended up being my last year in fire. I was working on Boise Heliattack, Bell 212. So that essentially is kind of a civilian version of a Huey.
Mm.
And this was my last actual wildfire incident. So we're at the Iron Creek complex outside of Reading, between Reading and Weaverville. And it's kind of boring duty because the helicopter and the pilot's doing all the work on this one. This is a big project fire. There's probably 1,000 firefighters there, big, big, big fire. And so we're just hanging out, um, staying hydrated, doing some hookups on the helicopter. They'll fly off, uh, pick up water, do bucket drops. And so I was getting kind of bored. So myself and another guy on the helitack crew, we volunteered to go walk the line and count a bunch of hose lays. So there's sometimes hundreds of miles of hoses that are just kind of all over the place in these big fires. And we're pretty fit and we want to get out and just walk around. So I'm not going to say his name because I haven't asked him, but we went out and we walked probably 6, 7 miles. We're walking the perimeter of this fire. And here's the thing about forest fire. You have federal employees, Forest
Hmm.
Service, BIA, um, Department of Interior, and then you have this whole group of private contractors, right? So they come in, they're not highly trained, they're on call, they meet the absolute minimum qualifications to serve on a fire line, and typically their jobs are kind of grunt work. Here, we're going to take out a bunch of hose, we're going to do some rehab work and clean up some line. They're not in the thick of it. And they're all over the place. They make the backbone of the fire service. And so myself and this other firefighter, we're done walking the line, and unbeknownst to us, so every 10 days we do rappel proficiencies. So whether we're on a big fire or not, um, we'll go up, we'll rappel all of our helicopters just to get our proficiency and make sure we're good. But everyone watches that. So those who aren't in Helitat are like, "Whoa, look at those guys! Like, I want to be one of those guys. They're the cool ones, right?" And we ran across this group of contract firefighters. The how I knew is right. I don't want to sound egotistical with this. Their physical standards just weren't our physical standards. It was just different. They have a
They were
different
soft. Okay.
mission. They have a different mission. They're smoking and joking. Not many of us are smoking. We'll have our chew in our mouth, but it was just different. And I remember walking up on them, and we were a little tired, so we were just kind of drinking some water. And one of them talked to me and said, "Hey, are you one of those Helitat guys?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm one of those Helitat guys. And he said, "Oh, how can I be one too?" And you know what's challenging is that in my mind, this is 5 years in, been on 100 plus fires, felt like I've proven myself time and time again. I let ego take over me. And in my mind, I thought, man, why are you asking me that? Like, don't you know who I am? I felt like almost like I'm better than or better than this person. I gave a very respectful response. Like, oh, you got to apply. If there's Heltech bases close by to where you live, stop by, talk to the guys. But in my mind, it's like, why are you even asking me this? You have no shot. That haunts me. Those days, there's no emotion with me, right?
Yeah.
There's no tears to be shed. None of these kind of moments. The next day, 7 of them died.
Wow.
Plus 2 pilots, 7 crew members, uh, Grayback Forestry, 2 pilots, 9 were killed, 4 survived. It was a Sikorsky S-61. It's kind of like a Marine One. You see Marine One
Hmm.
transporting the president from the White House in these big, big ships. And the Forest Service, we call them Type 1 ships, and carry a lot of people. So that night off Hellespot 44, picking up a group of firefighters, taking them down to a different location to kind of hunker down for the evening. Uh, there's a lot of controversy about what happened. Actually, the contracted company for that helicopter, I think their vice president or COO, someone went to prison for it for overstating the weight capacity that this ship could handle to win the contract. It
Oh,
became a thing.
shoot.
But apparently, the ship went up, went down, crashed, 4 escaped. Think about this. The other part of the crew watched it. They're still waiting for that ship to go and come back and pick them up.
Oh, no.
So those are real challenging days. Those are real challenging days. And my helicopter manager at the time, I'm not going to use his name either, but he was part of all 3 wildfire helicopter fatality recoveries that happened up to that point. And we're all in the hangar in Weaverville, and this guy comes out, and this was post incident now. And a lot of rules were broken, but a trauma counselor came in and he said, "Hey guys, um, you know, I used to be a smoke jumper. I'm in trauma counseling now. If you guys need to talk about anything, I'm here. I know what you guys have been through or what anyone's been through. Just want to get a chance to talk to you. I'm talking to everybody." But no one even looked up.
Yeah, I
And
bet.
he just turned around and walked out. Now, everyone handles these things differently. For me, it wasn't the reason why I left. I actually was engaged to my wife at that time, and we were ready to get married that September and kind of start a new phase of our life together. It just so happened that that was my last fire. And since then, right, transitioning. So I went firefighter. I'm transitioning at age 29. Here I am. I had fire on my shirt. I thought it was a big deal. Just trying to figure out life again. So I come into Boise. I don't know anybody. I have no network. I felt like no skills to offer, but I learned the skill that I have was I could handle a lot. I could work hard. And I started I was a teletac firefighter. I went to an unpaid internship and I went to this job where I was making 12 bucks an hour and lost my community, lost my tribe. I was just trying to figure out what's next, but I never stopped and I kept going forward. And someone asked me and said, it's actually Jake Verdini. He ended up playing jujitsu with us. I've known him since he was 18 years old as a rookie firefighter. And he said to me, he was like, and he calls me Al. I'm Albert, but he calls me Al. It's like, Al, what are you going to do now?
You know, it's funny you
What are you
say
going
he
to do?
calls you Al because he was doing that for a while, and I didn't know who he was talking about. He kept saying Al, and I'm like, who's this Al? But yeah, I put it together finally, but I'm way too slow on that.
And I just thought to myself, I just got to keep pressing forward. I don't know what the finish line looks like. I had no idea. It wasn't going to be from firefighter to um, salesperson to banker to working at a technology company. I didn't know what the finish line was, but the thing was keep going.
10,000 hours is a steep mountain to climb to become a master, especially when the task at hand puts a relentless demand on your body. There is nothing casual about this sport. It's all in, all effort, all focus. It takes a lot from you, but the reward is unmatched. Mastery of oneself, an acute understanding of your weaknesses with an explosive sense of your strengths. Being able to complete the climb to mastery requires the proper nutrition. This is why it's important to take in a potent blend of electrolytes that is in tune with your output and brings strength to your goals. This potent blend is only found in salt electrolytes. Salt targets your depleted electrolyte levels with a boost of hydration and health. It gives your body the baseline recovery it needs.
Don't quit on yourself. Keep getting better and understanding the things that drive you to be scared or nervous or may cause embarrassment because you're still learning new skills. Don't quit. And that's what got me through this tough transition. Ended up in banking of all things. Right here I am. And now I'm finally making my parents proud. They're like, we thought we were going to get an attorney as a son. He became a firefighter. That's hard to brag about in certain immigrant communities. You got to
It's
be a
funny because
doctor, a lawyer, attorney, a banker.
oh, that's
And so,
hilarious, man. But now they got a banker, so this is one of the transitions I wanted to talk to you about because that's a flip, man. Talk about what that was like. This you're going from this action packed, you know, lots of danger and tragedy and
yeah,
excitement to banking, which we don't usually put like high on the excitement list.
the thing about banking is an exercise in risk mitigation, right? So, what financial institutions do, they're money traders. They get a dollar for this amount and they lend it out for a higher amount. And that's what they do. They're always assessing risk and maintaining that spread. Vastly different from those firefighter days. And it really I had to adjust. I had to evolve. And I kept thinking about, do you ever do this where sometimes you think about leaders that you've had in the past and the ones that weren't really good stand out the most? Like, oh, I'll never do what that person did. Oh, that person's terrible. And sometimes the ones who were really good get kind of aren't thought of as quickly as some of the bad ones. And I started thinking about leadership, the impact on people that leadership can provide. And I saw it. I saw in the fire lines. I saw effective leadership or ineffective. There's only two kinds, effective or ineffective. That's it. There's no middle
Yeah,
ground with leadership. And I became a real student of it. And so whether it was banking or other things, I realized that I can make an impact on people. But the thing is, I have to keep growing and developing myself to make that kind of an impact. And then over the years, I ended up spending 10 years at one financial institution, became a vice president. Uh, Real comfortable job. I could have ridden it out for another 20 years, right? I had this mantra that I used for all new employee orientations. And sometimes organizations have their vision and mission statement. I couldn't tell you what it was at the last place I worked, but I think some of my team members and employees will remember the three virtues that I talked to them about.
Oh, please give us the three virtues.
Each time a new employee would come on board, I'd make a promise to them. And the promise is my expectation of you and your expectations of me always is to lead by example, self sacrifice for the greater good, and demonstrate and know that each person can make a difference. And that was a promise. It was a promise that they can expect those three virtues from me. And if I'm not living up to it, let me know. I also expect those three from you. Now, going back to those virtues, I was always driving to develop, have the team grow, get out of their comfort zone. And then I found myself starting to get a little comfortable.
Mm,
I went back to those virtues and I was thinking, am I leading by example here? Sometimes, I don't know if you're a guitar player or not, you
I
think
dabble.
about, me too, but, there's always that kid in the neighborhood who knows two more chords than you do, and you think he's Jimi Hendrix.
Uh huh. It's
And they're
jujitsu.
like, yeah, that's jujitsu, but that's so many different things. And so I felt like, you know what, I'm two steps ahead, not because I'm better, but just because I've been just doing it longer and I've had more repetition, but I was feeling comfortable. And so through different relationships and an opportunity came about to shift from the banking space to kind of quasi within the financial institution space. But I went to a company called Investify. And so it's still dealing with the financial institution space, but it's a challenge. And it was a challenge that I felt that if I'm leading by example, if that's really something I believe in, that it led me to taking that leap. And there's no
Yeah,
easy
man. You
days.
you mentioned that comfort zone, right? It's so easy to get there, and I don't know if you realize this about me, but my that was part of the reason I started Salt was I have my other company running so well that it doesn't require much of me. And I just found out it's kind of bored. And I was getting, mentally soft with it, just like too comfortable. You mentioned that earlier, right? And man, I needed a project. And the Salt has provided that project.
I remember
Well,
you
talk.
mentioning that, Riley. I remember that. You're like, I have things pretty dialed in with my business. And then I was like, why'd you go and just start another business? You just created all this headache for you. But it's a similar vein of challenge and growth. And knowing that comfort is not necessarily a good thing. It can feel good. It can definitely feel
For a
good.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a temporary thing, man. I love to hear you talking about that because it's nice to build things to where we are comfortable because that's the goal, right? Is the whole reason I put things in place in my other company was to make it as much as it possibly could run by itself. But man, there's something about that when all of a sudden I'm not needed anymore. There's a little bit of ego hit, all of a sudden decisions are being made without me. And, I find out about it later and it was a good decision. I just wasn't part of it. So now I feel kind of put out a little bit, and then, but the boredom really started to catch up with me where I was like, man, I need something to do. I just need something to put my mind on and something to scare me a little bit, something to make me uncomfortable.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And so I didn't mention it, but I went from a financial institution that's been around for almost 90 years, rock solid stable, to a startup.
Yeah. No, and I know
Now
the
we're doing
company, and I
really
know
well
you're
as a
not saying
startup, but
it.
us,
Nate, you're not saying it for a reason, but you did go from exactly that, something very solid, and it's a pretty a legendary institution in our community here, but to yeah, a startup. So talk about what that's done. Talk about what emotion you've had with that, but also how's your wife handled this transition?
well, I think the biggest part of it is that we're a remote first company. So I'm working remotely outside of some travel for work, and my wife works remotely downstairs for her company that's based in California. So I think that's that's been the biggest transition. Is every once in a while we'll kind of see each other when we're going to the kitchen, whereas before, right, I'm out of the house 9, 10 hours a day, and then I come back home and kind of do that thing. That was actually the biggest transition. But I'll tell you this with my wife, all these changes that have happened in our 18 years together, she's always been supportive. She always says, go for it. And that type of support is really unmatched. I'd
Yeah.
like to say I'm doing it all myself. But if I didn't have her saying, go do it, I know you want to do it, go try it, that gives me that confidence to know that there will be no failure. There will be no failure, right? It's like jujitsu, my glorious jujitsu tournament record of 0-5. It's they say win and learn, lose and learn. I don't know about the winning part, but I'll tell you this, losing and learning, I used to tell people, hey, your first 6 months or 3 months on a job is kind of challenging because you're not quite up to speed, but you're getting paid. And someone will say, oh, I feel kind of guilty getting paid for this. And I was like, hey, you're getting paid to learn. You're losing and learning.
Yeah.
Not necessarily they're losing, but just kind of overall, right? Is that we're always learning. And sometimes the best opportunities to learn something is when you're on the other side of the victory, on the other side of the medal stand.
Yeah, man. I've been meaning to ask you, and it's a little off subject, but it's kind of part of what's going on here, and I want to know you this term "go earn your salt." What does that mean to you now? Because some years have passed since you and I had that interaction. I stole that term from you, but what does it mean to you now? Because you've experienced some life stuff, and you've experienced those situations you talked about with the fire and the you know overcoming this stigma of you had quit a few things in life and you carried that along kind of in the back of your mind there that gave you doubts whether or not you could achieve certain things, but now you come up with this phrase, go earn your salt. And what does that mean to you?
Earning for salt for me means don't quit, keep going forward, sweat, grind, grit. And the thing about salt is, I don't know if you talked about it on this podcast. I was a history major back in the day. Is that salt was like gold, right? There's value assigned to it. And anything in life worth receiving a value takes effort.
Mm-hmm.
You got to earn it. So think about those things in life. Maybe you're a kid and your parent just give you some teddy bear at the store because you cried for 1 second about it. It's like, here's the teddy bear, shut up. Right? Or whatever it is. What happened to that teddy bear? That teddy bear got left behind somewhere 30 seconds later, got fed to the dog, something else like that. What if you had to earn it?
You know that
That teddy bear becomes a lot more valuable.
that's awesome. I was thinking about that recently, and it was something that I had been when my father passed away. We were just cleaning out his shed, and there were some tools in there, and there's a couple tools in there I found. I was like, oh, this would be cool to have, and I put them in my shed, right? it occurred to me one day, I'm out in my garage and I'm working on a project. I was like, it'd be really cool to have one of these tools. I didn't realize I had that tool in my shit. I had forgotten about it because I didn't earn that thing, right? I just received it. And it was in the chaos of, the mourning and the passing and the all the work it is to deal with an estate and all that kind of stuff. And it made me think about exactly what you're saying, is that I didn't earn that thing, and so it had no real value to me. I forgot I even had it. And I almost went and bought another one before I happened to see it out there. And I was like, oh crap, man. I almost just went and bought a tool that I already had because I didn't value the thing I already had because I didn't earn it. But all the tools that I've paid for, all the experiences in life that I've, you know, the triathlons and half marathons and the hard stuff that I had to earn. I remember every one of those. I know exactly what I had to do to get there. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. What some lighter questions. You want to go for that?
Hey, let's go for it.
Okay. Your favorite pastime?
Favorite pastime. It used to be jujitsu when I go more often. And then I got that blue belt. I barely go anymore.
Freaking blue belts, man.
I'm
For
definitely that stereotype.
for people watching in the jiu-jitsu culture, the blue belt is the second belt, and it's just a common kind of a meme that when somebody gets their blue belt, they quit jiu-jitsu. And Albert, you haven't quit jiu-jitsu yet. You're still
I
dabbling.
was there on Monday.
Yeah,
So
see,
technically, I have not quit.
you just don't come to my class anymore.
No, I was telling some of the guys on Monday, um, we're doing a drill, and someone kind of sat down on my calf a little bit. That's just jujitsu. And he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Sorry about that." I was like, "Hey, no worries. I'll be back in a month, and I'll just be fresh, just like a daisy. So you put on the pressure, you sit on the calf, you do whatever you need to. Next time you see me, I'm gonna be fresh. Don't worry about it,
I got a
because it
month
won't be.
between classes to heal
I got
up.
a month between classes. It's all right. It's all right." Now, I'd say right now it gets more challenging, right? We have four kids under the age of 10. My wife is a very high functioning professional too. And it's one of those things. It's just the pastime, I'd say lately, is is still working on things, right? And working on things, we talked about earn your salt, and we talked about some uh some tangible things like a teddy bear or tools and things like that. Relationships, you got to earn those every day too. You
Yeah,
got to
man.
work on those every day. Whether that's relationship with your spouse, your kids, your aging parents, that's an interesting dynamic in and of itself. Your friends, it's hard, it's challenging. You get older, you get busy. You got to be intentional with friends and family, because if you don't, just like anything else, you're not earning it, and it's going to wither away, or you're not going to value. You're not going
Yeah,
to value that relationship. So I know you're trying to
absolutely.
go light, but I went heavy again.
God, man, you just turned that right back into heavy. No, I love it. I love it, man. You're dropping some wisdom here. Okay, hamburger. You're eating a hamburger, and in the restaurant you go to puts the freaking veggies on the bottom. Is that acceptable?
I don't eat veggies. I'm a plain cheeseburger kind of person. I've always been a plain cheeseburger. And here's the thing, I don't want to be a blaming type of person. I want to take full accountability. But my parents owned steak and fries restaurant. So
Mm,
hamburgers, cheeseburgers, steak subs. They would come home at night with four or five cheeseburgers. And the thing about it was they're always plain, because if you throw on some mayo, if you throw on some tomatoes, that gets soggy and can go bad quickly. But you just have those plain cheeseburgers are good to go. And if you want to kind of hear a little bit of a gross out story, I'll tell you this. In my
heck yeah.
rookie year in the Forest Service, we're going out to middle of nowhere, Nevada. You know how middle of nowhere, Nevada can be. And we're day three, day four on a fire. We're eating MRE, so meals ready to eat, these little meals out of a bag, and they're terrible. And someone pulls out a stinking cheeseburger, like a McDonald's wrapper cheeseburger. We've been out here for a couple days. It's 100 degrees. And they start eating that cheeseburger. I'm like, wait, wait, when did you get that cheeseburger? He was like, I don't know, like a week ago. I buy them, I just stuff in my pack. And he said the secret is get the plain cheeseburgers. because they last longer. And so later on, when we were going on assignments to fires, if I had the opportunity and we're stopping somewhere, I'd pick up five, six, seven, eight plain cheeseburgers, throw them in my line gear, and it was like heaven on earth. 3, 4 days into a fire, biting into that. And I'll tell you this, the bread stays pretty good. The cheese stays good, especially when it's 100 degrees every day. Still, it has that little melted feeling to it.
It's warm from your.
But man, I remember pulling out a cheeseburger from under the seat in one of the rigs once. It could have been there for 2 weeks. I don't know. But I ate that sucker and it was good.
So it's funny because there's that Netflix documentary where they talk about how a cheeseburger, a McDonald's cheeseburger, lasts forever in this glass case, and doesn't change. And they talk about it as a negative, but you're bringing a positive light on this, man. Benefit
Hey, it
to
brought a smile to my
firefighters.
face. Yeah, have a week old cheeseburger and some Copenhagen. Life was pretty good.
Holy crap, that is funny, man. Um, Tell me this: have you ever been in a fight?
I've been in one-sided fights, uh, meaning as a kid, I got bullied a lot, got picked on a lot, got all these kind of things, and low self-confidence. I didn't know how to defend myself, and so uh, less of fights, but more of beatdowns.
Oh no.
And that was all as a kid. As a grown-up, I'm not going to attest to anything I may or may not have been a part of when I was under my pseudonym of Captain Chaos. I'm sure it was all just good times with my cape and stuff. And so I can just say I don't recall any in my adult life past 18, but as a little kid, just got beat up here and there.
Oh man. Were you ever kicked out of school?
I kicked myself out of school.
So part of that was you, and part of it was the administration, or what? Tell me
They,
this.
they weren't sad to see me go. They weren't sad to see me drop out of high school.
Holy
Now,
cow.
if I could only go back then, uh, everyone would be very surprised. I think that life is like seasons. We change, right? And it's okay to keep changing in our lives. That doesn't mean that we're a different person. That just means sometimes we're maybe a better person, I hope.
I'll tell you what, man. I've interviewed a whole bunch of business owners over the years, not on the podcast, but just I love to sit down with successful people and see what makes them tick. And the amount of really successful people that did not do well in the school system, it's most of them. They just figure out a way to make life work, and it's not that rigid routine. They're just not cut out for that sort of things. Um, what's a bucket list challenge? Something you want to do in the future?
Of all the things that I continue to strive to try to do and conquer fear, I think competently swimming is on my list. I can do the doggy paddle a little bit. I can cheat underwater and just push my legs out and beat all my kids in swimming, but I can't really swim. And so that's something that is on my list to make sure that I become in this latter stage of my life is becoming a competent swimmer.
My friend, you're talking to a competent swimmer. We should do that sometime. I
That's rad.
It was funny because I mentioned triathlon earlier, and that's the one event that I'm pretty dang good at. The other stuff, the running and the biking, I'm very very marginal. But swimming, man, I can swim. So
All right, we'll find each other in the pool then.
yeah, we'll get in the pool. That'd be awesome. Um, Tell me a book that you recommend everyone should read.
It may be a bit kind of outside of the conventional, but I'd say Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. It just shows the wildness that happens in these Michelin star restaurants, just the madness, the chaos that happens behind the scenes. And then what gets delivered is this perfectly plated meal. So
It
sometimes
figures Captain Chaos would go for kitchen chaos, right?
It's it's just an interesting process that all these different ingredients, just the chaos that can happen in the kitchen with all these disparate personalities that are drawn to working in a hectic kitchen
Yeah.
environment can produce things of such beauty and taste and refinement. Like, how do you go from there to there? It's just really fascinating to me. And I think that's what we focus on a lot in life is the output. Here's the output. Riley is the founder and CEO of Saw Electrolytes. He made it. Albert is whatever this is, he made it, right? But they don't see all the madness that's happening in the kitchen every single day. They just see that perfect plated food that's getting a Michelin star rating from the food critic. And that's why that book really resonates with me, is that you got to keep grinding. You got to keep fighting through the chaos, but you have to deliver,
Hmm.
right? You have to produce as well.
Man, you just brought that around to what you were talking about in the beginning, right? That grind.
It's grind.
I love it, man. Well, listen, what are you going to do next? What's next? You just started this new venture with Investify, but what do you got in mind for the future?
What's nice is that I have those three virtues to guide me. Lead by example, self-sacrifice for the greater good. Each person makes a difference. Here's the thing, sometimes life isn't linear. Life may not present itself right now to what that next finish line looks like. Now, I have those objectives from a business perspective. I have different objectives and goals from a family perspective, but it's okay to leave some things to chance, but don't put your behavior, don't put your discipline, don't put your focus with development, with leading, with leaving your ego at the door, knowing that you can learn from everyone, each person can make a difference. You keep focusing on those things and ensuring that every time you have that funny feeling in your stomach, you decide to lean into it instead of lean out to it. I feel like only good things can happen.
Oh, that's beautifully said, man. Well, Albert, I thank you for being on here today, man. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while, and I was super jacked to be able to have this podcast as a way to talk to you. And again, I'm thinking about you coming up with our tagline. It's that meant a lot to me, man. I don't think you intended it that way. I just think that's kind of when I heard it, it was the thing, and I just appreciate you a ton. Appreciate your friendship
I
and just
appreciate, yeah,
all the years of training, man. If people don't realize what jujitsu does for dudes and um, for the ladies too, but just that we're trusting each other. You mentioned that in the conversation before we hit the record button here that you have to trust people, man. And
mhm.
when somebody's got a hold of your neck, you got to trust that they're gonna
Which
let go when
Riley
you
does
tap or
often or has done often.
whatever. That's just fake rumors. That's
No, I'm
awesome, man.
grateful to be here with you. I'm grateful for the friendship. And I can really say authentically, you're one of the most real people, empathetic, you care about people, selfless, and whatever you need, my friend, I'm here.
You're awesome, dude. Albert, go earn your salt, man. Hey, you've just finished up this episode, and I've got to know, do you know someone who's a getting after it kind of person? Someone who is earning their salt every day? If so, I would like to have them on the show. So have them message me directly at the Go Earn Your Salt podcast on Instagram. Let's see if we can get them on the show. Have a great day. You know what to do. Go earn your salt.